just a little bit, but since we're talking about econ I figured we'd just dive right in with the song here. Okay. And this will set the stage a little bit, I think, for the topic in general and how I view country music and how it relates to econ.
Well, the day I was born, the doc couldn't believe I came out crying Chattahoochee. Didn't take too long after that for the hair on my head to grow long in the back. Now all the girls want me to pick 'em up when they hear me rolling by in my pickup truck. 'Cause it sounds like the radio back in '94, you know. Hook a speaker up to my soul. It sounds like the radio. Sounds like a damn good time. Soaking up some neon light. Well, it's a little bit of fiddle and a whole lot of country gold. Yeah, my whole life sounds like the radio. People call me a walking, talking jukebox. I keep the hits spinning non-stop. Something about a steel guitar moaning the blues makes me want to throw back a case or two. They say honky-tonk heroes go to heaven, you know. Maybe that's why everybody wants to go, 'cause it sounds like the radio. In '94, you know. Hook a speaker up to my soul. It sounds like the radio. Sounds like a damn good time. Soaking up some neon light. Well, it's a little bit of fiddle and a whole lot of country gold. Yeah, my whole life sounds like the radio.
So I'll stop that one there. But I think that's a good little intro here. Let me share my screen for the PowerPoint. So that song, it's a newer song from a newer artist, Zach Top. You may or may not have heard that one. But the reason I started off with that, there's not necessarily like true economics in there, but just the whole idea of his whole life sounds like the radio, right? And so I think that's why country music is such a great way to illustrate economics. Okay, and so this is just a screenshot of my webpage, which I'll show you guys later. But on there, I have a little summary, right? Country music is full of stories about money, success, failure, and love. What people may not realize is that these are the foundations of many economic concepts. So welcome to econgonecountry.com. It's supply and demand with the twang. So everything in his life, I think that's such a good way to teach economics because so many things in our lives, of course, relate to economics. So this, the title of the presentation today is just the Country Music Guide to Economics. And of course, this is in partnership with the Nebraska Council on Economic Education. So I want to thank them for inviting me to talk to you this afternoon and evening. And as Matt said, my name is Mark Melichar, and I'm an associate professor of economics at Nebraska Wesleyan University. Just a little bit of background about myself. From Crete, Nebraska. So born and raised in Crete, went to Crete High School there, Crete Public Schools. Quick shout out to obviously K through 12 educators. Very much appreciative of what you guys do and how hard you work and the impact that you make in students' lives. I think education is such an important thing. Neither of my parents went to college, but I knew I was getting a great education at Crete, and basically you could pick any school in Nebraska, and I think you're going to get a great education there because I had wonderful teachers. And so I just want to thank you guys for what you're doing and keep on working hard and just know that you are appreciated. After high school, I went to Hastings College and studied business administration and economics. I did not start off studying econ. I really honestly didn't know a whole lot about econ until I took those first classes my freshman year. And then I fell in love with it and then decided to pursue it. Then, with some encouragement of my advisor in college, I decided to try grad school. And so I attended Kansas State in Manhattan and earned my PhD in economics. And then the rest is sort of history. So professional career, I've been an economics professor for about 12 and a half years now. And primarily I teach more of the macro than I do the micro, but occasionally I'll do some micro stuff, but primarily I'm more of a macro guy. So that's just a little bit about me. So my teaching style, when I was at Kansas State, the advisor for the economics club is a gentleman by the name of Dan Keister. And he was kind of my mentor there at K-State, and he helped me kind of learn how to teach and figure out what to do. And so I emulated what I saw from him. And what he likes to do is use media in the classroom. And so that's what I've done as well. His passion is The Office. Okay. And when The Office was a really big hit show, gosh, whatever it was, 15 years ago, he was creating a website along with a couple other guys, and they created the website Economics of the Office. If you're familiar with that, it's a great website. If you're not familiar, you should check it out. There's wonderful clips on there. So I like to use media like that as well. It's not just music for me. I do TV shows, I do movies, podcasts, lots of different things. So it's not just country music either. But this is where I've kind of um, this is where I learned kind of what to do. When I was in grad school, I've always liked, not obviously a big urban area. And I listen to country. Some of my friends listen to country. I listen to other genres as well, but I've always listened to country in some way, shape, or form. And then in grad school, maybe it was just coincidental. Maybe it's because I was studying economics in grad school. Maybe it's because I was older and just listening more to the lyrics. I don't know. But I began to notice that a lot of those country songs I was listening to had economic concepts in them. The first one that I really remember that I could kind of point at was Ronnie Dunn's Cost of Living, which was released in 2011. This was shortly, of course, after the financial crisis, the Great Recession in 2008, 2009. So the economy was coming out of that and technically was recovering, but still very weak, very slow growth, still really high unemployment. And so the song was just really about the struggles of people trying to find jobs and work, tied in a little bit with inflation too, but it was mostly about the labor market. So that was the first song I really remember. So then I kind of started just keeping track of songs that I heard and like, oh, that's a good concept there and there, and had an Excel spreadsheet and kind of kept track. And then eventually, when I started working and had a little bit of time, I created my own website similar to what Dan had done at K-State and created my website, econgonecountry.com. So I'll show you that here in a little bit. In terms of country music, you may not be a big fan, or you might be, I don't know. And you might be worried though about your students. You might think, well, do my 17 or 18-year-old students or 16-year-old students or whatever, are they interested in country music? Right? Maybe you teach in Lincoln, maybe you teach in Omaha, or who knows? You might think my kids they don't care about country. Okay. And that might be true, right? For some. But I want to make the argument today, right, that country music is more popular than ever, and there are probably more students than you think that are interested in country music. Okay. So I'm going to show you just a tiny little snippet of an interview that Lainey Wilson did with NBC, where she talked about just her career and her life and her new tour, okay, which is called Country's Cool Again. So let's see. Oop. Okay. Oh, sorry, guys. Give me one sec. All right. Okay.
Me herself leading a cultural moment for a way of life.
Doggone, there come didn't see that coming. Country's cool again.
Country's Cool Again, the name of the tour and the song, of course.
Yeah.
So what do you mean when you say it's cool again?
I mean, like the Western way of life and like being country. It really is a movement. And I'm proud to be a part of this generation of country music because everybody looks different, sounds different, has a different story, and comes from different walks of life. And to me, that's what makes the country genre cool right now.
I got a heart.
Okay. So it really is a little bit different than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And it is having a moment right now where it's probably truly more popular than ever. Okay. So country is kind of expanding to a wider audience. Nashville, of course, Music City, the home to country music, is very popular. Anybody been to been to Nashville in the last few years on vacation or anything like that? No, want to go possibly? So tourism in Nashville is exploding and has exploded. So if you go back, it's an estimated 11 million visitors in 2014. So about 10 years later, in 2023, this is the most recent data I could find, there were nearly 17 million visitors to Nashville. And so Nashville has just exploded in popularity. People like to go down to the honky tonks and listen to the music and have a good time. Okay. As Lainey Wilson was talking about in that interview, the genre has more diversity than ever and is appealing to a wider audience. And so there might be students who maybe you think traditionally wouldn't be interested in country, but they might be. Okay. As an example, right, you've got Post Malone, Beyonce, Jelly Roll that are now crossing over and dropping songs or albums into country music. And historically, of course, you would not expect to see these types of artists in country music, but now they're crossing over and it's very common now. Okay. So I would say if you're skeptical of country, at least give it a shot. It might appeal to more of your students than you think. That being said, I understand country music is not necessarily for everybody. So a lot of what I'm talking about this evening, I think you could apply to any genre. Um, the only thing I guess I would say with that is just proceed with caution and make sure you really check out the songs and the lyrics before you play them in class. You don't want to cross a line and kind of get into trouble. Generally speaking, you're pretty safe with country, but other genres you got to be a little bit more careful. But there are other ways to do things. If you're interested in Broadway, there's Broadway economics from Rousseau. K-pop, if you're into Korean music, there's a resource where you can find K-pop and economics. And then there's just a general website that has economic concepts in all types of music, and that's Music for Econ. Okay. So there are other resources out there if country music's not your cup of tea. Okay. So I'm going to go to my website here in a minute and kind of just walk through a little bit of a tutorial of how I like to use music in the classroom and what's thought of, I guess, as kind of a best practice or best practices for using music. If you want to check out the website, you sure can. There's a QR code that you could scan. It should work. And then the website is just econgonecountry.com. Okay, so I will oops, switch over to that.
I put the website in the chat too for everybody there.
Great, thank you. Oops. Oh, sorry. I always forget I got to close. Let me close that. Okay. Okay. So here's the landing page or the home page of my website. You can learn about me if you want. You can kind of just explore videos and there's just little images of the songs. You can click on that. If you're teaching about a certain topic and you're looking for a song relating to that, I have basically like a glossary. And so you can click on economic concepts and you can go through all these definitions or these terms and I've defined them. And in a minute here, I'll do an example of opportunity cost. Okay. So maybe you're teaching your students about opportunity cost. And so I'm going to show and share with you time is love. I think that's a fun example to have students think about opportunity cost. So you can do that, but I'll get into that in a minute. But I just want to spend a few minutes, and in case you haven't used media too much, and especially music in your classroom, You might be wondering, how should I do this? What's the best way to go about it? Okay. And there's no necessarily right or wrong about how to do it, but the two general ideas is, and what the terminology I have here, of course, on my website is, I guess, geared more towards college. So I have lecture, of course, but it applies right to the high school classroom as well. So pre-class or pre-lecture or during lecture. Either one is fine. I tend to do more of the during lecture, but I started off our presentation today basically doing like the pre-lecture to kind of set the stage for economics and how you can find economics in country music. Okay. And so that's one way to do it is if you have a noisy classroom and kids are talking and you want to get things quieted down, you could play the song right at the beginning of class to kind of quiet things down. And then, of course, whatever song you play can set the stage for the topic or topics that you're going to discuss during that class period. Okay. So I do that sometimes, but that's typically not what I do too often. I tend to do it more during lecture. If I'm doing a longer, like hour and a half lecture, people's attention span starts to go, whether you're students or anybody else, we can only focus for so long. And so I like to introduce like the model first or the theory and go through some of that background. And then after they've seen the model or seen the theory and the graphs, then kind of switch over and say, okay, now I'm going to show this video to you. And this is going to illustrate what we've just learned. And it makes it, of course, a little bit more tangible and real world. And students tend to like that. And it also breaks up a little bit of the monotony of a class or a lecture. Okay. The other thing is then after you've played that video, you of course want to try to connect it back and make sure that students are understanding the concepts in the video and in the song and how they relate to what you've been teaching them about. And there's lots of different ways to do this as well. And so there's not necessarily any right or wrong here. It's whatever you feel is appropriate. You can do think, pair, share and have students get into groups of 2 or 3 and then pose a question to them and call on them. I don't know in high school if you guys do a lot of classroom polling, but in college, especially for bigger lecture halls, that's very popular for professors to do classroom polling as a way of attendance and participation. And so you can easily create classroom polling questions that ask about the song and the lyrics and how it relates to the concepts that you're teaching. Other things that I like to do periodically is make more robust assignments, whether that be like an in-class quiz or even a take-home homework assignment where they're analyzing the song and the lyrics. And then you could even take it a step further, and I'll show you an example of that, of tying in other resources. Maybe you have them read an article, maybe they listen to a podcast, maybe they're collecting data from Fred or something like that. And so you can tie it in and make it more robust. And so there's a lot of different ways you could do it. There's no right or wrong. If we have time later too, we could talk about, this is not the main focus for me tonight, but there's also nationally things called like rockonomics, which is a fun thing that I've done with my students, but we can talk about that later if there's time. So let's see. So that's kind of a tutorial of how to use music in the classroom. So let's go back here. So let's say you're teaching, you're kind of getting into economics and you're talking about some of the basic things, right? Scarcity, trade-offs, opportunity cost. Okay. So of course, we know opportunity cost, what one foregoes to get something else. It's your next best alternative. And so I mentioned just a minute ago, I think a fun example of this is Josh Turner's song, Time Is Love. Now the song's a little dated. Josh Turner's not necessarily a huge name in country music anymore, but the song is, I think, a good one. Sorry, I'm trying to switch tabs here. Ugh. Trying to move the banner at the top. There we go, maybe. Okay. All right, so I'll play the video for you and then we'll kind of discuss it and talk about it here.
I know I gotta put in the hours, make the money while the sunlight shines. But anything I gotta get done, it can get done some other time. Time is love. Gotta run, love to hang longer, but I got someone who waits for me, and right now she's where I need to be. Time is love. Gotta run. I only get so many minutes. Don't wanna spend them all on the clock. In the time that we spent talking, how many kisses have I lost? Time is love. Gotta run, love to hang longer, but I got someone who waits for me, and right now she's where I need to be. Time is love. Gotta run, gotta fly, before one more moment gets by. Time is love. Gotta run, love to hang longer, but I got someone who waits for me, and right now she's where I need to be. Time is love. Gotta run, love to hang longer, but I got someone who waits for me, and right now she's where I need to be. Time is love. Gotta run. Time is love. Gotta run.
Right. So, let's see here. I don't know if you guys are in the mood to contribute and talk here, but anything that stood out to you in the lyrics there that maybe illustrate scarcity, trade-offs, opportunity cost? Anything that stands out that you remember? Oh, what'd you say, Jennifer? I think I couldn't hear you, but
Oh, I
could you
think
hear her, Matt?
no, I think she's muted.
Okay. She doesn't have the mute icon. I don't know.
Oh man. I can say there was the whole song basically sets up opportunity cost that
Yeah,
there's something else happening. That there's all these other things going on, but those are the things that he's giving up to, be with that person or whatever it may be. So
right. And it
definitely picks up
illustrates
on the opportunity cost for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. And scarcity, right? Only so many hours in one day. We all have 24 hours. We're bound by that. We only have so much time to work and do different things. And there's trade-offs, of course, do this or do that. You can't do both. And so that's, I think, a fun way to just introduce scarcity, trade-offs, opportunity cost to students, right? And so you could even, pose a question to your students and have them really think about opportunity cost. Is the man's opportunity cost, Josh Turner or whoever, we're talking about in the song, is the opportunity cost of working, getting tasks done, playing basketball with his friends, is the opportunity cost of doing all those things high or low? The answer is high, right? It's extremely high. So the lyrics, I know I got to put in the hours, make the money while the sunlight shines, but anything I got to get done, anything, it can get done some other time, right? So priorities being placed with his significant other. Okay.
Is my
Uh,
mic working now? Sorry. Thank you.
yeah, you're good now. I don't know why it wasn't working earlier.
Yeah. So what I was saying was that everybody was being shy. This is not typically a shy group, so
Yeah.
I was telling them to stop that.
Oh, okay.
But then also, super cool. I'm not a country music girl, and I told you that from the get-go. But I think this is fun. And what I was doing while it was playing was putting it into my notes for my class to use when I do right at the beginning, scarcity trade-offs and
Yeah.
opportunity cost.
Yeah. Yep. And there's even a little line in there, it's kind of corny, but he says, in the time that we spent talking, how many kisses have I lost? Right. And that's opportunity cost. Exactly. Okay. So that's a fun one to get started at the beginning of the semester when you start teaching scarcity trade-offs, opportunity cost. Trade, I don't know how much you get into that, right? But you probably for sure get into, specialization, comparative advantage, and then of course, trade. So I just have a question. Before you start teaching your students about this, before your students have taken an economics course, do you have any general idea or feeling about how they view trade? Do they view it as a positive or a negative thing, or are they indifferent, I guess? But
I would say they feel positive about it. But also I feel, and I've told this before, but my students always thought that trade was like we sent 10 TVs to this country and they sent us back like 200 bananas and like that was trade. And
yeah,
so they don't realize like how trade is actually conducted. But I feel like they think it's positive, I think, because they realize what they're getting from it.
yeah. So there's some positive aspects there, but then I do think too that there's some, maybe this is just politically over the last 5, 10 years or whatever, but there's definitely it's been framed somewhat in a negative way that the United States loses from trade, right? Other countries benefit, we lose. If we didn't trade with other countries, if we were completely a closed economy and we had to produce everything, or if we had to or if we were only able to consume what we produced, what would happen to the prices of many of the things that we consume? And the answer is many of those things would get more expensive, right? To not go way off topic here and way off on a different tangent, but there's a good little clip that I like to use here. There's a movie called Outsourced. The movie's probably 20 years old at this point, but it's about this man who works at this company, and the whole company basically gets outsourced to India, but he's able to keep his job, but he has to go over to India and train the workers and run the call center there. But there's this great clip about although some people might view trade negatively, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, most people want to buy the cheapest thing possible. So there's a great clip that I'm going to share with you real quick about this movie here. Sorry, I'm being a little clunky here with sharing the screen.
Come on.
One second. Take them. Thanks. Hello?
You gotta be kidding me. I'm buying a freaking American Eagle from a company that is supposed to be in America, and I get India?
I understand that you're upset, sir.
No, you don't. You don't understand. Last month, I lost my job at the plant where I worked for 22 years because the whole operation moved to Mexico. My brother had to leave town because there are no jobs.
I know how you feel, sir.
No, you don't. You have a job.
Sir, please don't hang up. I have a solution for you.
What?
See, we understand that many Americans are upset about outsourcing, so we have located American-made versions of all our products. If you have a pen, I will give you the website of an American company that makes an eagle statue very similar to ours. Same size, same materials, only theirs is made 100% in America.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it, but is the price about the same?
No, sir. Theirs is $212 more. Sir?
Yeah, all right. Just sell me yours.
Thank you, sir. May I have your credit card number?
So it's a good little clip there that, of course, some people, and it's not that there aren't losers from trade, right? Some people are worse off, no doubt. But generally speaking, right, we think as a society, our economy is gonna be better off. Consumers are gonna have lower prices. So people might say they're all for American made products, but then at the end of the day, they don't actually follow through and buy those American products because they're more expensive, because other countries may have a comparative advantage in producing it at a lower cost. So to kind of illustrate that idea, um, there's a song from by Toby Keith called "Made in America." Okay, so let me share that with you, and we'll play that. And on the website for all my pages, I've got, the title of the song, the artist, and then there's just a general overview of like, here are the key concepts that I think are in the song. Then I give some details of the song if you've never heard the song before. And then for a lot, and the lyrics are in there as well. I should have mentioned this earlier. And I need to do some updating to the website and get some things updated. But for a lot of the pages, there's also some like resources there if you wanted to use this in your class. There's some classroom polling or the like think, pair, share questions that you could use and tie it to the song. I should have said that earlier. But so let's listen to this one real quick. Toby Keith, Made in America.
His heart seeing foreign cars filled with fuel it isn't ours, and wearing cotton we didn't grow. He's got the red, white, blue flying high on the farm, Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spent a little more in the store for a tag in the back it says USA. He won't buy nothing that he can't fix with WD-40 and a Craftsman wrench. He ain't prejudiced, he's just America. He loves his wife, but she's that wife that decorates on the 4th of July, but says every day is Independence Day. She's golden rule, teaches school. Some folks say it isn't cool, but she says the Pledge of Allegiance anyway. He's got the red, white, blue flying high. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spent a little more in the store for a tag in the back it says USA. He won't buy nothing that he can't fix with WD-40 and a Craftsman wrench. He ain't prejudiced, he's just made in America. Born in a heartland, raised up a family, King James and Uncle Sam. He's got the red, white, Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spent a little more in the store for a tag in the back it says USA. Won't buy nothing that he can't fix with WD-40 and a Craftsman wrench. He ain't prejudiced, he's just made in America. Made in America. Made in America.
Right. So, a lot of these songs, of course, that song's about patriotism, but we can find economic concepts in it. All right. The other thing I would say real quick as a little pointer is even if not the entire song has economic concepts in it, I've learned, students get a little upset if you cut off the song. I know I broke my own rule and I did that right at the beginning, with you guys, and sounds like the radio. But play the whole song. Students will get a little upset if you don't play the whole song. So we're gonna have higher prices, right? So if we make everything in America, and so Toby Keith Made in America illustrates that, right? So he's willing to pay more for a tag in the back that says USA. So understanding and illustrating that, of course, if we're going to make everything in America, it may be more expensive. Some people are willing to pay more, and that's totally fine, but there's a cost that comes along with that. One of the lyrics there, right, says Americans are wearing cotton we didn't grow, right? So we could ask our students, what is the opportunity cost of producing more cotton? If we produce more cotton in America, then what? What do we have less of? I don't know exactly, but less of some other agricultural commodity, right? And so this is kind of insinuating that we should only wear cotton that's made in America, but we don't know, is that our comparative advantage or not? And it probably is not. Okay. So this could also be a good opportunity to talk to your students about agricultural comparative advantage, even by state, because I think this is kind of fun to do. So of course we live in the Cornhusker state. We're known for corn. So what's Nebraska's kind of comparative advantage agriculturally? I would argue corn. Okay, also beef, but in terms of crops, corn. Interestingly, I think at least, our neighbors to the south, Kansas, Kansas is very similar geographically, the size of the state. The climate is somewhat similar, fairly similar, Kansas and Nebraska. I lived in Kansas for 5 years for grad school. It was a little bit warmer in Manhattan, but not a great deal warmer. Pretty similar precipitation. And yet, what's Kansas known for? Anybody know?
Sunflowers.
Well, true. That is true. They do have beautiful sunflowers in Kansas, but for cash crops, wheat, right? So Wichita State are the Shockers, so that's their little logos, like some wheat. People at KU, in Nebraska, where we score touchdowns, we do this. They do that at KU as well. They're waving the wheat. Okay. So why is it that basically very similar places, Kansas is known for wheat, and that's their comparative advantage, and we're known for corn, and that's our comparative advantage. And so you can see this in the data. This is some recent data that I could find from 2023. Nebraska is the third highest corn producing state. Kansas is there, but way behind us. We produce over 3 times as much corn as Kansas, which is interesting, I think. So what explains this difference? And I could be wrong. I'm not a farm boy per se. I didn't grow up on a farm. Both my parents did. My grandpa was a farmer. My uncle was a farmer. So I could be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But what explains this difference, I think, are resources, right? And so comparative advantage, we could tie back to different things, based like, resources in different countries are going to determine people's comparative advantage. This is the Ogallala Aquifer. You may or may not be familiar with it, right? The Ogallala Aquifer is this amazing underground resource of water in the plains of America. And a vast majority of it is in Nebraska, just coincidentally, right? I don't think anybody knew that, of course, when they drew the state line and the borders, but coincidentally, most of it is just right under our feet. Some of it's in Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas, but the vast majority of it and the deepest wells, the deepest water, is in Nebraska. And so with that water, we can irrigate. And so this is a map of irrigated acres in the country. And you can see a vast majority of Nebraska is irrigated. Some of Kansas is, and it's where that aquifer is, but otherwise Kansas is not irrigated. And I could be wrong, but I think Nebraska has the most amount of irrigated farmland of any state in the country. It's either California or Nebraska. California has a lot as well. But Nebraska has a ton of irrigated cropland. And so with that irrigation, of course, we can grow corn. Corn requires way more water than wheat does. And so interestingly, right, our resources help determine our comparative advantage. And so we could tie that back to the song and think about, should we grow more cotton? We probably could, but does it make sense to do that? What would we be giving up? We'd be giving up a lot of corn or a lot of soybeans or a lot of wheat or whatever. Okay. Another lyric in the song said Americans are driving foreign cars filled with fuel that isn't ours. This is a way, if you want, to talk to your students about what is a foreign car, because I think this is sort of an interesting topic as well. When you hear foreign cars, what do you think of? What brands come to mind? Anybody?
Honda, Toyota.
BMW.
Yeah. BMW, Honda, Toyota,
Volkswagen.
Mercedes, Volkswagen. Okay. And for a long time, those were true foreign cars and they were imported, but not anymore. Okay. If you look at where cars are actually produced, a lot of those cars are produced in the American South. A lot of those are American made cars that have a foreign ownership, but are actually made in America. BMW has a plant in the South. Volkswagen has a plant in Chattanooga. Hyundai, all these places have manufacturing facilities. And so you could have an interesting conversation about that as well. And conversely, companies like Ford might actually produce their trucks in Mexico or something like that. Okay. So in that song, we can illustrate a couple things about trade and comparative advantage. With specialization in trade, we're going to have more efficiency and lower costs. If you want to buy made in America, that's fine, but it's going to cost more. And the gentleman in the song, right, his dad is willing to pay more for the tag that says made in USA. So that's a fun song to talk about comparative advantage, specialization, trade. Okay. And I like to, go on these little offshoots too. It's not, the song can help introduce things and I can take it in different ways. And then the last one that I'll share with you, try to do it fairly quickly, leave a little bit of time at the end, is consumer confidence. Okay. And consumer confidence and consumption and GDP. Okay. So as you guys know, right, about 2/3 of economic activity in the United States comes from the consumer. And what drives consumption? A couple different things. But if you kind of go to like the Keynesian framework, consumer confidence is big. If people feel good, they're going to spend money. If they don't feel good, they're going to cut back on the spending. This is the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. We can see that the gray shaded bars, this is just a Fred graph. Any of those gray shaded bars, typically you're going to see that confidence falls, and that's not surprising. If the economy falls into recession, you hear bad news, you get laid off, or friends or family that get laid off, people are not going to feel very good about it. But if you look at like between 2009 and COVID, you see that confidence generally went up. So during expansions, confidence rises. We see that during COVID, it drops dramatically, but then it starts to recover. But then I think what's interesting is there's another big drop in 2022, and yet there's no recession. So why did consumers suddenly feel less confident, even though the economy was quite strong? And I would argue that it's because of inflation, right? We all have lived through the inflation of the last few years, and it really picked up in 2021 and then peaked in 2022 and then started coming down a little bit in 2023. And now we're almost back to that 2%, still not quite, but getting close back to that 2% inflation annually. And if you look at that sharp uptick in inflation, I think it coincides perfectly with the drop in confidence. Okay. So to illustrate inflation and how inflation can make people feel so much worse about the economy, the last song I'll share with you guys is Strange by Miranda Lambert. Okay.
Coyotes on my left and throw you up a little something, 'cause tomorrow might. Play a guitar as you're rolling away, singing times like these make me feel strange. Times like these make me feel strange. Ain't it strange? Ain't it strange?
All right. Let's see. Oh, I'm trying to get back to stopping the share. There we go. All right. So I think, we can all relate to that song a little bit with COVID. There's kind of like the life pre-COVID, and then there's life post-COVID, and everything changed. And it takes time to adjust, and it's been strange, right? Everything's different. So that's part of the song. But of course, hopefully you caught the one line in particular, or a couple lines, right? So we got coyotes on my left, wolves on my right, sun keeps shining in the middle of the night. Urban feels suburban, Main Street ain't Main. Times like these make me feel strange. Lincoln came and Jefferson went. Money on a Maytag and the thing won't spin. Couple $100 feels more like change. Times like these make me feel strange. So I think you're right. The uptick in inflation in 2022 definitely had a big part of why consumer confidence dropped in 2022. That's when, if you remember, in the summer of 2022, it was like June, I think, June or July, gas prices peaked nationally at about $5 a gallon. That's about what it was here in Nebraska. Other places, like in California, I don't know, they're probably paying $6, $7 or more per gallon. And people will see the gas prices. Whether they actually impact your budget is debatable, how much you drive, but probably don't impact your budget all that much, honestly, but you see it. And so it's in front of your face as you drive to work every day, and you see it and it's painful. So a couple $100 feels more like change now post-COVID because everything's more expensive. Okay. And not only does this affect how people feel, but it affected how people voted. Not to go way off track and talk about politics, right? But I think it's unquestionable that this had a part to play in the election in November. In the exit polling, they asked people about inflation. 22% said they had severe hardship, 53% moderate hardship. So three-quarters of America said that inflation has caused them moderate to severe hardship. And I think that's a big part of why, right, Donald Trump won versus Biden, or versus Harris, excuse me. So that's part of it as well. And so how you can take this a step further, I'd mentioned this at the beginning. So you could play that song or ask students to listen to it outside of class as well. And then, for example, there's a indicator from Planet Money podcast called Taking the Temperature of the U.S. Consumer that came out a couple of years ago. And it's all about the consumer, University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. So you could have an outside assignment or homework, ask students to listen to the podcast so they can learn about this consumer sentiment survey. Who's responsible for it? How long has it been in existence? How do they actually go about contacting and talking to people? And in the podcast, they talk about some strange findings about consumer confidence. So you could ask them about that. You could, of course, then tie it into the song. How does her song relate to the podcast? Provide some lyrics to strengthen your answer. You could even ask them, how do you feel personally about the economy or about inflation? Do you think things are going to get better, worse, stay the same? Why do you feel this way? So to wrap it up and not keep anybody late, and make sure, I know Matt wanted to spend a little bit of time at the end. I think country music and just music in general, but of course I have found that country music seems to work quite well. This can be a low cost and efficient way to add more real world content to your classes that students are going to find both relatable and memorable. Music kind of gets stuck in your ear, stuck in your mind, and then you're going to connect that to the content, and it's going to stick with you, I think. And again, I'm arguing and making the case that country music is more popular than ever. It's probably at a high point. Okay. Some of the world's most famous artists from other genres are crossing over and doing country. My website, Econ Gone Country, provides a catalog of country music songs and instructional materials for a standard Principles of Economics course. It's geared more for principles, but you could, use it for other courses as well, but it's geared more for principles of micro, macro. Many instructional methods exist for you to incorporate music and other media into your classroom. I encourage you to do it. I've enjoyed doing it. I think students really enjoy it and it helps them learn. I think it's also fun. And so for me, if I'm having a little bit more fun when I'm teaching, I think it's going to be a better experience for everybody. And so my last piece of advice for you would be to just do what works best for you, have fun and enjoy it. So that's my presentation. Any questions or comments?
I loved it.
Thanks.
This is five more country songs than I've ever listened to probably in the last 20 years. And but the examples were like so incredibly like I don't know, they just stuck out really,
Yeah.
really well. I really appreciated that. Like and like you said, music just gets stuck in your head. So now the rest of the
Yeah.
night I'm gonna be singing these songs in my head and because of who I am thinking about the economics too,
That's right. Yeah. And that's why
but
last minute I decided to do that Zach Top song at the beginning because I think the whole song, again, the song isn't really about econ, but just the idea is that country music is about people's lives and people's lives are economics, right?
yep, absolutely. Does anyone have any last questions here, quick, before I go over our upcoming events? Not that I believe most of you are even signed up for most of these, so we'll go quickly through them, for sure, but it'll be nice because then it'll get recorded for the people that are not here who asked for it. Um, so what we
Mark,
have, oh,
oh,
go
oh,
ahead.
well, Mark, I was so you mentioned that you always play the whole song. You don't do clip. Can you expand on that a little bit more? Just because
Um, because like some of the songs, like the Strange song, the real key part there is at the beginning. The rest of it doesn't really have too much to do with econ. And I've in the past been like playing it and then I'll stop it because I'm like, okay, you got the econ. There's nothing else here for you to get. And then they're like,
uh-huh.
whoa, 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 what are you doing? They want to hear the rest
Okay.
of the song. And so to me, it's like, that's fine. It's like a couple extra minutes of class time. It's not a big deal. And so I just
Okay.
play the whole song because they tend to like the whole song. They want to hear the whole song.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. 'Cause, like when I used to use a ton of TV clips and stuff like that. And obviously, you can't get away with showing a 20 to 30 minute TV clip every single class, but every time students were like, "Well, I want to watch the rest of that. I want to," they always, and music luckily is a little shorter. You can get away with that a little easier for sure. But all right, so here's what we have coming up. Um and we'll get you on your way. Know that we do have Economics Challenge and Finance Challenge coming up. It's a little early still, but you can certainly get ready for that if you've never registered before. It's there for you. Um, this is extremely applicable because Mark's here and he's going to hopefully help me and Kirsten write the case study this year. We've already emailed back and forth a little bit to get that going, but we are doing this in Kearney and in Omaha this year. So if you are a little bit further west and you would rather travel to Kearney, and I know coming from Omaha saying west is Kearney is crazy, but it is, as far west as we're going to get here. But there is an Econ Challenge in Kearney this year. So we are splitting it into two regionals to help those traveling a little too far, maybe for Omaha. So that's online. It's totally no cost for you to use in your classroom, and it takes less than 30 minutes to implement. Sign up your whole class, have all the kids do it, and they will enjoy it. The same thing with Finance Challenge. Very similar. 30 minutes or less in class, sign up your whole class. And then we host this one, as you may know, in Omaha, Lincoln, and Kearney. Um, and we'll be doing that again this year. So your students can win cash prizes in these. And with Finance Challenge is the awesome part that you might actually get to go to Atlanta. Um, will help cover those costs for you to get to Atlanta for the Finance Challenge. Other webinars or things we have coming up, we have in person. I know Melissa signed up for it. We have an in person coming up on the 25th. It's going to be just a great time. We're really excited about it. It's the ethics curriculum. So this is not this Saturday, but next Saturday. You can still sign up if you're not already. It's $150 stipend for teachers with lunch provided. We're going to go over, I just made the agenda. So we'll be doing 5 different lessons from the ethics curriculum, which is a nationally award-winning peer-reviewed curriculum. And it's so fun. We're bringing in Chandler Jordan, the executive director of South Carolina, and one of the co-authors of the curriculum. So super cool. We're super excited. We also have another in-person workshop coming up in February, and this one is Realities of Socialism, Sweden and Denmark. This is on February 22nd. This one's in Lincoln. Same stipend, $150. You do not have to have attended. I don't know if I said that right. You do not need to attend the first one to go to this one. So this is another socialism workshop, but this one is not going to cover the same topic as the other one. So if you went last year, you still need to go this year. But if you didn't go last year, you can still go to this one. It's not going to affect your enjoyment. But we're going to focus on Sweden and Denmark in this one, and we're partnering with Foundation for Teaching Economics there, and talking about their robust social welfare systems and the free market economies and stuff like that. And we're really excited to get that perspective on those countries that we often hear about a lot of times in the news and stuff like that when it comes to socialism. Estate planning is coming up in February as well. That's going to be our next webinar is on estate planning. And that's with Brett Ebert, who is a lawyer for an estate law firm, basically. So she is by far the expert on this topic for both your students and for you, maybe even if you're interested in learning more about estate planning. Other than that, we have the stock market game. It's already going, but you can still sign up. Your portfolios can get opened, and you can still participate for the spring. We're over 600 teams now, so we're still looking for whoever else can hop in, so you can make it to that awesome banquet in the spring. All right, I have the form here, and I'll put it in the chat as well. If you want to fill this out for us, that would be fantastic. That will help us for sure, figuring out, what kind of things you like, what times work for you, and things like that. So I'm going to put the link here in the chat for you if you want to fill that out before you leave, just so we kind of know how it went today. All right, there is the link for you. It's in the chat. It's also on this QR code up here. Okay. Anyone have any questions about what's coming up or anything like that? I'll leave that up for a little bit. If you don't have any questions, we'll thank Mark again for sure. We appreciate you doing this. I'm going to stop sharing or stop recording. Whew. And yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciated it.